What's up, everybody? It's Corey, host of the Grease Pole Podcast, and as we continue to chip away at this backlog of the weekly performance tiers, we find ourselves at week 12. Just put out week 11, and we're doing a little green lighting effect this week because we played Green Bay week 12. Has nothing to do with the fact that we're recording this video immediately after the week 11 performance tiers in order to try to catch up with the backlog, and we would never try to smoke and mirror the fuck out of you or anything like that. That has nothing to do with it. It's green because Eagles, Green Bay, lots of green on the field. A football field is green. Yay! So, fuck. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. But, week 12 performance tiers, if you want to check out the reason why the tiers that are following are named what they are and the significance of each, click the link that will appear in the video above, and that will take you to the intro to the performance tier series and why the following tiers are named what they are. As always, we start with Weapon X, the Brian Dawkins tier, each and every week. And who else but QB1? Jalen fucking Hurts. Look, 102 rushing yards in the first quarter. His longest run was 42 yards, but he also had carries of 24 and 28 yards in the first quarter. He set a franchise record for the most rushing yards in a game by a quarterback with 157 yards on 17 carries, averaging over 9 yards per carry, most of which came on third down, big spots, crucial spots, conversions. He set the tone for the game and had a game for the ages in terms of rushing quarterbacks. And let's face it, Eagles fans, we're used to running quarterbacks, right? Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick. And we discussed on the pod how Hurts stacks up against those dudes in terms of talent. And, you know, since the playoff loss to Tampa last year in the wild card, where the Bucs simply forced Jalen to beat them through the air and he couldn't, he's improved immensely and not only is capable of making all the throws, but he's able to throw guys open as well now. And look, he's having arguably the best season of any quarterback in franchise history, including Carson Wentz in 2017. And, you know, if he's not the front runner for MVP, he's got to be for Offensive Player of the Year. Bottom line. Big shout out to QB1, yet again appearing in the Dawkins tier. The entire fucking offensive line, right? And these are the games that you love as an O-lineman, right? You get to fire off the ball and just put your dude on a sled, right? 363 rushing yards, the most by the Birds in a single game since 1948 when the franchise record was set with 376. And, you know, you say what you want, and this game was close and back and forth for a while, but in crunch time, the trenches kept the Packers' offense on the sideline to put the game on ice. You hear it all the time. Games are won and lost in the trenches. And right now, you know, with the Eagles' offensive line and even the depth along the defensive line, trenches across the board is as good as anyone in football, and that's what you want. Special shout out to our guy, Jason Kelce, with 170 games played on the offensive line. That's the most by any offensive lineman in franchise history. And think about the territory that encompasses, right? With all the outstanding offensive linemen that have played for the Birds over the years. Guys like Jerry Sizemore, Guy Morris, Stan Walters, Wade Key, John Runyon, Trey Thomas, Todd Harrimans, even the Iron Man, Concrete Charlie, Chuck Bednarik. Kelce's forever an Eagles legend, and he cemented it with the promo and the Mummers gimmick at the Super Bowl parade. And, you know, for me, and maybe I'm partially biased here because I played center, but I think his place on the Eagles' Mount Rushmore is fucking secure. And while the entire offensive line made the Dawkins tier this week after paving the way with those 363 rushing yards, 62 deserves a special place in the Dawkins tier with that milestone. Charlottesville represent our guy, Chris Long tier. Miles Sanders, another big night for the Penn State alum, 143 yards on 21 carries, for an average of almost 7 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns on the night. And, you know, again, with the O-line on skates, Sanders was at his most effective. And while his thunder may have been stolen by the night Jalen Hurts had, we're going to continue to pound the table in favor of more 26 in this offense. Special, super special shout out. First time appearance, inaugural debut for Reed Blankenship. And, you know, if you've been listening to the pod, we've been on him since the preseason, and his opportunity to show up came when the NFL's leader in interceptions, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, left the game with a rib injury. And Blankenship was everywhere, most notably with a great read on an interception of Aaron Rodgers as he jumped the route and crashed down on Green Bay's Tyler Davis. After that, he wasn't tested through the air for the rest of the night. But you could find him making tackles in the open field. He made a beautiful read from the secondary. Eyes in the backfield to come up and track Aaron Jones for a great stop. And credit Howie Roseman here for the depth on defense, which especially in the secondary, it hasn't always existed, especially recently, right? But you see it now here with Blankenship, and who knows, right? Your boy, I'm a fan of obscure players, and we've been talking about a jersey purchase, right? And, who knows? Maybe one of these days I might be rocking that number 32 on an episode of the pod or on one of these videos. We'll see. Also, the double cheek push, right? Now, here's a guy, and that's how Chris Collinsworth described the quarterback sneak on the broadcast. And once again, you saw this formation aplenty, even with Hurts putting dudes in motion this time. And the quarterback sneak continued to come up clutch a couple times and was able to keep the chains moving for the Birds offense. The Nelson Aguilar tier. And I got to do it. I got to go with the black helmets, right? And this was the gimmick du jour. And I go back and forth with the black jerseys. Personally, it's Kelly Green or bust for me. But I've always felt like the black jerseys at night are a little gimmicky, right? It's almost like, hey, it's nighttime and it's dark out, so let's wear black. And, it's very 2002. It's very early 2000s when everybody in the fucking world had black alternates. Even teams that didn't have black in their color scheme had a black alternate. What the fuck? But at the same time, I don't hate the way these look aesthetically. I feel like the Eagles helmet should always be green, right? But that said, there have been times this year where the helmets have almost looked black to me anyway. Like the midnight green has almost gotten to be too dark on the helmets recently. So it didn't look entirely that much different to me, which brings me back to the Kelly Greens. Please bring them back full time, not just as a goddamn alternate. Like, you're the Eagles. It should be noticeable if you wear a goddamn black helmet, and to me, it just wasn't, which makes this feel like a cheap grab at getting people like me to spend money on buying a black mini helmet to add to the collection, which I ultimately definitely will. It's a fucking good job, Eagles. Good for you. A.J. Brown's fumble. And this made 2 weeks in a row that A.J. Brown's fumbled. And you shouldn't panic yet, but it's enough to raise an eyebrow, right? Dwayne Johnson. You give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been so integral to the success of the team. And reportedly, he wasn't feeling super hot going into the game. And you saw him post-game in the locker room with that bloodshot eye. Apparently that happened because, according to Brown himself, he was throwing up pregame so much that he lost 7 goddamn pounds. And I'm not trying to turn this into the Jordan flu game, all right, here, but if that's the case, you can kind of forgive it at least a little bit. But still, fucking ball security. That takes us to the cheeks of the cheeks, the Chip Kelly tier, and it's got to be special teams, right? We've said it before, we'll say it again. The third phase for the Eagles has been cheeks all season long. Michael Clay's unit has been underwhelming as fuck week in and week out, and it felt like every other return by Green Bay went for 40 or 50 yards. They allowed a 53-yard return with less than 2 minutes remaining. Dudes were out of position. It was a clusterfuck. Like, that shit can't happen. And there's some talented dudes on this unit. It shouldn't continue to look like a comedy bus every week. And, Christ, you've got Darren Sproles out here saying he's a phone call away and he'd return. And my initial reaction was, oh, fuck, here we go. But honestly, maybe it's not a terrible idea because it feels like with how consistently piss poor the special teams have been, it would be a shame if this, like a special season, were to come to an end because of a special teams gaffe. And it's just been week in and week out with Cheeks special teams, which is why they appear here in the Cheeks, the Chip Kelly tier. Next up, against Tennessee, we've got them at home at the Link. And look, admittedly, I had no idea the Titans were any good until, I saw they were 7-3 entering the game against Cincinnati. But the Bengals won, so Tennessee's 7-4 now. But still, the Titans are that team every year that lingers around relevance just enough to be annoying as fuck, right? They're a mainstay in that in the hunt part of the playoff graphic every December. And, the rumor was Jordan Davis will hopefully be back for this game, and he pretty much has to be. The Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph pickups are huge, and the defensive line is absolutely a strength of this team, but you saw in his absence how crucial Jordan Davis is to this run defense, and he's going to be necessary against Derrick Henry. Just imagine those two going head-to-head. If that doesn't get you excited as a football fan, you don't have a pulse. And not to mention, it's A.J. Brown's revenge game against his former team. Mike Vrabel's got a blue-collar team, so it could be a tricky matchup, and we'll see how it shakes out. As we chip away at this backlog, we will see you next time for the Performance Tiers of the Titans. Like what you see, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment in the below, let us know what you think. Check out all the content across the page, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. As always, go Birds.